2 o'clock. I'll go ahead and call the Transportation Policy Committee meeting to order for this Thursday, April 14th. Mr. McDonald, if you'll have roll call, please.
Certainly, Judge. All right, Judge Krebs.
Here.
Charlie Zahn. Here. Judge Canales.
Here.
Mayor Guardo is not here yet. Mayor Scaro. Mr. Leindecker.
Here.
Mr. Oliveras. And Mr. Buckner. We do have a quorum.
Do have a quorum. Thank you, sir. Go ahead and move into our public comment on items not on the agenda. Is there any public comment on non-agenda items? Any public comment? Any public comment? If we get some, let us know.
We're clear at the moment.
Okay. Item 3, approval of our March 3rd, 2022 regular meeting. If there's no corrections, additions, or anything to those minutes, I'll accept a motion for approval.
So moved.
I'll second.
Okay, I got a motion by Mr. Lundecker, seconded by Judge Canales. Okay, hearing no corrections or addition, all those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Okay, under item 4, we got some discussion and possible action items. We got 4 of them this afternoon. First one would be 4A, TxDOT 2023 Unified Transportation Program. We'll have review, discussion, and approval of projects for the TxDOT 2023 UTP. Mr. McDonald?
Sure. Thank you, Judge. As you remember, you've seen this item a couple of months now, and it's been through its final 30-day public comment period. We have not received a public comment in all that time. If you'll remember, we have a list of projects that originated from TxDOT, and Valenti is right on time. So the list of projects in your packet is the one you've had for a couple of months. And for one of the actions that you do as a policy committee, you're about to award $241 million in transportation projects. Little did you know. And so on that attachment, the one-page attachment that I'm holding up, you can see on the lower right that we did the math for everyone. So $241 million over 10 years is a pretty good start. And so those projects you've seen, those projects are in various processes, getting developed, doing the planning side, doing the environmental clearance, all the things. So the money you see in the table and for this item, that's the construction-only dollars. And so with your action today, this will go into TxDOT's UTP process that in August, the Transportation Commission, they will approve it as part of the statewide UTP. And so statewide, it's in the order of $8 billion. So we have a small share of that, but pretty good projects for this region. And staff is recommending, along with your technical advisory committee, that this is ready for approval. And the last piece, the dollars that you see on the table on the top of page 2 of your cover memo, the dollars haven't they haven't changed. And so for those who do the quick math, the $241, if you see this table, which has $330 million, there's still more money that you'll need to allocate in the next couple of months. So with that, I'll take any questions.
Any questions from us?
Rob, you know what I'm going to ask? Inflation.
Inflation.
Yes,
very good point.
Sir. Yeah.
So because this is
from the last discussion we had last month.
Yes. So this document going into the TxDOT process, there's another stage of these projects. They go from a 10-year plan to a 4-year plan called the Transportation Improvement Program, and then a 2-year letting cycle. So by the time they go to the letting, or by the time they go through the 4-year and then 2-year letting, they'll revise the cost estimates before they put it out to bid. And so the inflationary impacts of these have not been added to these tables yet, because we frankly don't know what they are yet. But as TxDOT looks at these projects through their planning process now, they're going to get a better sense of, as they finalize the scope of these projects, then they're going to know how much for right-of-way, how much for certain materials. And so as a planning document, we're comfortable with the dollars shown as is, but we know in the process that for TxDOT, a city or a county, by the time they bid the document or bid the project, they'll have a new engineering estimate. But if we try to update these every time, we'll never have the document, ready for approval.
Well, what I meant last month was the number of projects that we had. You said, there's not enough projects for the money,
Yep.
that we just go ahead and add the 30% to those existing projects.
And it may.
On those
yeah.
estimates that we have now.
Yeah.
And that kind of takes up some of that money.
That may very well turn out to be the case. Now, remember, this 10-year plan is updated every year.
Okay.
I would imagine next year you will see the
I'm
same.
I'm the rookie on the board here, so,
Yeah. No, it's a good question, because as we get into the 4-year TIP documents later on your agenda, that's going to be a big item, because that may knock projects off of the list, because you can't afford all the projects for the dollars that are available. And so if you have a little bit extra money, I think most folks are waiting to find out what's the new money coming from the Federal Infrastructure and Jobs Act. So that new additional money is not in the table that I just identified in your memo. And as you said last month and now again, new additional money may just cover the cost overrun or the inflationary or the cost to get the materials. So these things are updated at least every year, but certainly before they go out to bid.
all right, thank you.
Sure. Anytime.
Judge, that we staff recommendation on item 4.
Second.
Got a motion by Chairman Zahn, seconded by Mr. Lydick. Larry, you had any questions? Oh, you're fine. Any other questions before we have a vote? Okay. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Okay, 4B, which we're going to review, discuss, and approve and release for a 1-month public comment period, the 2021 through 2024 Transportation Improvement Program. Ms. Casper.
Good afternoon. As was just said, this is a request for a 1-month public comment period for Amendment 5 to our Transportation Improvement Program. It is.
Oh.
Do I need to get
You know what,
closer?
but Charlie, you can turn that on. Here, push the bottom one.
Wow, this one just push it. Okay. Maybe
Yeah,
we're all on
Testing,
now.
testing. Hello? Testing. How's that?
Oh, there you go. We learned something.
I don't think we need him too much louder.
Yeah. So this is requesting release for 1-month public comment period of Amendment 5 to our Transportation Improvement Program. Amendment 5 is proposing the use of $2 million in our Category 7 funding by the MPO staff to acquire data, implement technical models, and develop some regional plans that will assist with our regional performance-based planning and programming process. There are 13 specific deliverables that have been identified for these funds. The 13 items come from some combination of the after-action report we did after the last long-range plan and TIP process, the new Infrastructure and Jobs Act requirements, and the planning emphasis areas that Federal Highway and Federal Transit gave us in December. I'll just run through them really quick. So one of them is an enhanced regional travel demand model that includes time of day, enhanced assignment, multiple modes of travel. So our current travel demand model is the same basic framework that we've had since the 1990s. It gives us the total number of trips that happen between a zone in somewhere in our region and another zone somewhere in our region over the course of a day. It doesn't tell us if it happens at the peak hour, if it happens at midnight, and it doesn't tell if it's a walking trip or in a semi, if it's a car trip. And so we're proposing that we update that to provide a morning peak hour, a midday shoulder, an afternoon peak, and an overnight. And then is it a car trip? Is it a semi? Is it a delivery trip? So getting the types of trips. Also, the current model is based on a household travel survey that was done in 2009, which is before smartphones, and was based on the year 2000 family sizes. And so we'd like to update that to use some of the newer big data that we have. The second item is a regional mesoscale model. So the regional travel demand model does the total trips and sort of what time of day. The meso model, it will be a detailed model that will look at all of the signalized intersections in the region and include this is a turn lane, how many turn lanes there are, how many through lanes, and it will allow us to analyze the trip time it takes to travel from A to B in the region and where congestion is by intersection, by turning movement. It will allow us to loan or help our local entities to do traffic impact analyses. If there's a big development that's proposed, we can say, oh, this is what you can expect to happen from this development. We can do multiple scenarios of growth. Well, if we change timing like this on this quarter, what are the impacts on that quarter? Because you'll see people change from one quarter to the other. The third item is updating our congestion management process. This is one of our required items, and thanks to TxDOT, we actually have access to data that we've never had before. TxDOT gives MPOs very detailed data from INRICS that we can use to update our CMP. Every transportation project that wants to add capacity, wants to add a lane, has to come out of the CMP. So if a project isn't identified in the CMP to add lanes, then we can't use federal money for it. So it's a pretty important part of our planning process. We are looking at doing a region-wide crash analysis using software that we've already developed. So actually, the meeting after this is with our new traffic safety task force. They are getting a presentation on the crash model that we've had calibrated to our region. It's the state-of-the-art model in the world, to toot our own horn. This will allow us to get consultant help to do a complete regional analysis using that software, and then develop an action plan that will identify specific projects that we will do at specific locations based on that software. The next item is application of TREDIS. TREDIS stands for Transportation and Regional Economic Development Information System. So those of you who have done a RAISE grants, one of the required items is a benefit cost analysis. This will let us do a similar benefit cost analysis and also provide an internal rate of return and net present value of transportation projects in our region, and also then assist anybody else with future RAISE grants to provide that analysis. It will give us an idea what projects in our region and how they compare with the projects that are being successful at the RAISE level. The next items on the next page is customizing FHWA's open source highway economic resource system. This is a free software that FHWA provides that we need to get some data. Hopefully we'll get it from TxDOT and the city of Corpus Christi that will let us look at pavement maintenance in our region in a region-wide basis, and look at the life cycle needs of the pavement. It will let us say we have this much money for maintenance, what happens to our pavement condition over time over the next 25 years. It will let us calculate if we invest, what level of investment we need by year to reach a certain pavement condition level, and give us it's the fix it first performance metric. What is our actual need over the course of 25 years? The next item is utilizing Urban SIM, the Socioeconomic Allocation Model. So a lot of times we call this a forecast. Actually, we don't forecast. We use other people's forecast, in this case, the state demographer. We would look at the state demographer's forecast and their control totals by county for our region. We also would access Woods and Pool, which is a private socioeconomic forecaster, and it will give us the number of households by county in the region in the future out through 2050, and the number of jobs by type that are forecast by both these two entities. And then the software would allocate it around, and we can change assumptions that go into the allocation model and produce different scenarios, because when we do these forecasts, these allocations, the only thing we know for sure about them is they're wrong. This will let us sort of bookend, we know what are the possible futures, and then minimize the risk of making bad decisions because our forecast is wrong. So that will help us, and that is an input into some of the other models, the travel demand model and several of the other models you've seen. Interaction with local experts and agencies for resiliency. So I've been participating on the technical committee for the General Land Office's coastal management or coastal resiliency study. I'm not sure exactly. Coastal Resiliency Master Plan, that's what it is. And found out that the Hart Research Institute is one of their subconsultants, and they have some really powerful tools that they were hired to do for GLO for the whole Gulf Coast. So this is sort of our ability to get the same tools and develop customized, more detailed level of analysis for our region on runoff, sea level rise, extreme weather events, and figure out what infrastructure is more vulnerable, which will then feed into the next item, which is developing a regional resiliency plan. While it's not required for us to develop a regional resiliency plan, it is incentivized in the IJA, and so if we have one, we can access a pot of money that isn't available to people who don't have one. And so this would get us access to an additional pot of money that we can use to harden some infrastructure or make some other improvements. The next item is develop a regional complete streets plan. This is another one of the incentivized items from IJA, and what it is looking at the main corridors, arterials, and collectors in our region, and making sure that they accommodate transit and non-motorized modes of travel as appropriate, and figuring out what appropriate is for our region. The next item is completing, this is one of our required items, completing an active transportation or micromobility plan. Our current plan has a portion of it. It has a bicycle part of the plan, but it doesn't have any of the pedestrian part, and it doesn't address any of the new e-scooters or things like that. So we would update our micromobility plan and identify at the sub-neighborhood level where we have good possibility and where we need some improvements to help focus investments. The next to last item is our community impact assessment model, and this is looking at what we want to get out of transportation beyond congestion, pothole fixing, and the crash analysis. Right now, the two most common items for that are, we get a lot of noise complaints, so it would be doing a noise analysis potentially. We need to work with the public and our decision makers to figure out what we need. Another possibility is hotspot analysis for air quality. It's possible, even in an area that's in attainment of air quality, that there are localized conditions that create air quality non-attainment. So one of the things we could look at there is moves analysis, air quality. The last item is taking all those tools and creating a transparent process or system that's repeatable, and bring it into a way to process all those bits of information to help you all make decisions on how we should spend our money. For that, we're actually lucky enough, one of the 3 teams we have under contract is doing the exact same thing for TxDOT right now. And so we've glommed on to their process a little bit and have the potential to get some of the work that is being done for TxDOT at the state level and bring it into our level, but supplemented or enhanced by some of the detail models that we just talked about. So again, we're asking for $2 million in Category 7 money. It's typical for MPOs to use Category 7, which is Surface Transportation Block Grant, or FTA 5307 funds to help assist with planning. These funds actually come from out of the normal flow of Category 7, though. There's $3.2 million in funding that's 100% federal, so it doesn't require the 20% local match. And we're requesting $2 million of that $3 million to produce these funds so we don't have to come up with the local match. Sorry for the lengthy presentation.
A lot of information there.
A lot of information. If you have any questions on any of the tools or anything.
I have a
question?
question. Judge. Yeah, oh, I turned my light on. Okay. Craig, so I'm curious, and I think that all of these tasks would, they obviously serve a very, very good cause. Are these monies able to be used in any other way?
Yeah, they can be used, these monies can be literally used for anything other than operating transit system. They can be used to build a bridge, they can be used to build sidewalks, they just can't be used for operations.
So, and my thoughts are, I think that if, the board wants to consider maybe a hybrid, if some of these monies could possibly go back to the entities to assist us I mean, we all know inflation is really, affecting project costs right now. So I don't know if that's something that we want to entertain or discuss.
I will say there's $16 million right now in unprogrammed funding that is available to the entities and hasn't been requested. So we'll actually talk about that.
Yeah, and, yeah,
Later.
and Craig's right. And so Mayor, where you talk about this money is 100% federal, and as Craig said, available for any Category 7, so almost anything except the transit operating. And so with the $2 million requested from staff, it does leave $1.2 million of this Cat 7. Now, when you get into your project selection for the Transportation Improvement Program, your 4-year plan, you've got $67 million of Category 7 that needs projects assigned to it. We don't have that list for you today, but your technical folks, your staff, are going to get it next week. So on your next meeting, you're going to see the estimated allocation of that $67 million plus the other couple $100 million for projects in that 4-year plan. And so we've been asking the staffs for cities, the counties, the state, what do you need for this Category 7 dollars? And so as Craig said, yeah, there's a lot of unallocated Category 7 money. And we're going to help your local staff get that identified for projects. And we have some ideas of at least pooling that money, so no one outside the region somewhere in Texas may look at unspent money and may want to pull it to other uses. So we want to guard a little bit against that and make it available for all of the dollars that for the local governments. And so the 3.2 million is part of that, and that's on top of the 67 million.
Okay.
So next month you're going to start being able to look in the candy store of projects.
Right.
And then do some allocations.
Okay. Well, that clarifies that.
Yep. And just to repeat, one of the things that Craig said we think is real important from staff is that these tools that we're going to develop, again, you're getting the 30,000 foot level of what we're going to use the money for. We're going to flesh it out. I mean, we're going to hire consultants and get data, but it's scalable data that you're going to be able to use for your local governments. TechStock can use it for the district. Cities, counties, RTA can use it for their planning purposes of what they can do. So crash analysis, that helps everybody.
Right.
And so when we do these things, they're going to be available for you all for free, including the training on how to use the software, how to go through the data. And so some of the staff from your local governments, they've already seen it, but we're now starting to get more details. So you got another level of details. And again, today, it's just, this is going to be released for a 30-day public, or 1 month public comment period.
Got it. Okay. Thank you for clarifying that. I didn't know.
Okay. Any other questions? Mr. Lando?
What's the timeline on this?
So it would be a
Pulling all
1 month
this
public
together?
comment period, and then we have to.
I would guess spending the $2 million.
Oh, 18 months. We need it, we need these tools in time to use it for our long-range plan effort, so it's an 18-month. We'd like to get it done in 12, but some of them can't be done concurrently. You have to do, like, we have to do the urban
Series.
sim before we can do the travel. I mean, so there's just timing.
Great.
So,
Thank you.
but 18 months.
Thank you.
Any other questions, comments? What's the committee's pleasure?
Yeah, I make a motion, release for comment, the fiscal year 2021 to 24 Transportation Improvement Program Amendment 5.
Okay. Got a motion by Commissioner Zahn. Do I have a second?
A second.
Judge Canales. Okay. No further questions, comments? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Okay, next one is 4C, which is review, discuss, and approve, again, for a 1 month public comment period, the fiscal year 2021-2022 Unified Plan of Work Amendment 1. Ms. Gasper.
So this is a follow-on to the previous item. So the Unified Planning Work Program, among the things that it does is it is our work program, and we have to account for all the federal money that's used for planning purposes in our region. And so this is accounting for that $2 million in planning purposes. It's also adding in the new subtasks that we have to do per the planning emphasis areas and the Infrastructure and Jobs Act. So there are 4 new subtasks that are added, 2.6 through 2.9, and 2 additional tasks in 3.10 and 3.11. As you'll see on page 2, there's a table that shows the overall task number. If these tasks vary by more than 25% from the original, then we have to amend the UPWP. You'll see that we do, in a couple of cases, vary from that 25, plus or minus 25%, especially in Task 4, Metropolitan Transportation Planning, going from 114,000 down to 17,900. What that is the original UPWPs have been created to, based on sort of the average work year in an MPO planning process, and the dollar values will move up and down within that. What we're doing now is we're customizing our UPWP to the year inside a 5-year cycle, that we have a 5-year planning cycle, and so we are specifying or creating more of a custom year about where we're actually going to put the effort. And so what you'll see in this is 2022, if you look at Task 4, there's 17,900. If you look at 2024 in the item that's next to 2023 and 2024 UPWP, you'll see that there's $130,000-ish in. And so what we've done for these 3 years, the 2022, 23, and 24, is create a work plan that is customized to where we are in the data gathering, plan creation, vision and goals system. Are there any other questions on our UPWP?
Any question? Okay. Do I hear a motion?
So moved, Judge.
Valente?
So moved, yes, sir.
Okay, you did.
Sorry.
Mr. Linedecker. Okay.
Pardon me.
Okay, do I have a second? A second by Mayor Guajardo. Any other discussion or questions on the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Okay, last one, 4D. Again, we're going to review, discuss, and approve release for a 1-month public comment period again, the 2023-2024 Unified Planning Work Program. Mr. McDonald.
Thank you, Judge. You may have a case of deja vu hearing UPWP over and over again. As Craig talked about, that's our current work program and our scope of services with TxDOT and the federal government. We need to work on the next 2 years. So the 2023 fiscal year and the 2024 fiscal year, it also needs a work program. And so Craig alluded to some of this. So it's the same kind of things we have to do to address all the needs that Federal Highway say. We've got to look at all these different areas. We've got to look at how we do the analysis. We've got to develop the tools. We've got to get into all our processes. So it's almost like your local budgeting. You always you're doing your current budget, but you're always looking forward to your next year's budget. So we're no different. So our work program is our budget. And so we need to get it through our process. We need to also run it through TxDOT and Federal Highways for approval. And so, as Craig said, we really took a hard look at the staff hours related to all the tasks and subtasks. And so there are dozens of those subtasks of what we're going to do. And as you look in, if you clicked on the link, you can see the 50, 60 pages of detail of what we're going to do with the federal money. And again, it's all federal money for everything we do. And so we integrate that proposed $2 million that is going to be in this fiscal year, 22, but we're going to spend some of it. So in the next fiscal year of 23, we're only going to have about 1.75 million left of that, because there's not that much time left. So we have to account for roll over all the dollars. And so we're going to roll over, as you can see on the chart on the page 2 of the cover memo. You can see we've got a large expenditure using all those dollars in that 18-month window that we talked about. That'll be the end of fiscal year 23. You'll see at the bottom line, we're going back to our normal spending for fiscal year 24. We're down to just under $1 million of all the efforts that we do as the MPO. But having all those tools developed, we just have to maintain those tools once we spend the $2 million getting the data, developing the tools, sharing the tools with all of you. Those tools will be around for the foreseeable future. And so updating those is what we'll do with some of the other dollars. And so as you can see here, the federal government has come out with new emphasis areas. They've come out with new rules, new things to cover. We've built all that in as best we know it right now. And again, we're still learning what the new Infrastructure and Jobs Act means. Their guidance hasn't come out. Their guidance usually comes out a year later. So we're reading the law, we're reading the executive orders, we're reading what plans are coming out. I think today or yesterday, the equity guidance came out of what does equity mean across the U.S. federal government and then down to transportation. So we've got to address each and every one of those as they come out, and they keep coming out and they change, and they're going to overwrite some of the things we've been doing, and all 300 MPOs around the country are doing this right now. So we're trying to estimate what the workload is going to be in those 1 through 5 task areas and all those subtasks. So as Craig outlined, we're going to do the same thing over the next 2 fiscal years. Now, the one thing that we're also looking to get is from the local governments, what are you all doing in planning, transportation planning things? You know, things before have been like traffic counts for the cities, pavement, you know, what are the pavement conditions for both cities or the county or TxDOT? What's the area development plan going on? What's being built or planned for at the port? Like, you know, Joe Fulton was a planning study years ago. So we capture all of what you're doing and we build it into our work program so the federal government, TxDOT, and everyone in the public locally, all your constituents can see what collectively we're doing in transportation planning. And so that's probably the one piece of this draft document we're still collecting from the local entities to make sure we have the updates. Because some things you've already done. And we don't want to repeat things you've already done. We want to say, well, what's next? And, you know, like the airport's doing a master plan later this year. So we want to list that to show, well, there's a master plan going on. What's the city looking at to do that? For the RTA, you're doing a long-range system plan. And so we're looking to capture that. We're not doing the work for you, but we're going to help you where we can with data, some of these tools that we've been talking about. Can your processes use those? If so, we'll hand it over to you. We'll give you keys to all those. And so we can't give you proprietary software, but about everything else we can. So in this 2-year work program, we're asking you to release for the 1-month public comment period. We'll take it through the public process, your technical committee, and we'll scrub it again because there's always new guidance coming out from the feds. So, and one of those is the funding, right? We talk about the funding. We don't have the exact number for this plan. We're expecting probably another $120,000 or $150,000 more for this work program. What to do with that? Well, right now we'll put it in consulting services and things because that's very flexible. And so we just don't know where else to put it until we know how much it is. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions, but pretty typical fare for our scope of services, our work program, our budget. This UPWP is everything to us. And once you approve it in a month, we get it approved by TxDOT, the state, and then we go forward.
Okay. Any questions, comments? Committee's pleasure.
Motion that we approve staff recommendation on item 4B.
Second.
Got a motion by Commissioner Zahn, seconded by Mr. Lundecker. Okay, and that would include the 1-month public comment. That's correct. Okay. Any other comments? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Okay, item 5, this is discussion and comments only. No action will be taken. 5A, surface transportation block set aside. Cat 9, call for project selection process update. Mr. McDonald.
I've got this one, and luckily among staff, I won the coin flip. I get to present where you're going to award money next month. Today's just an update on the process. If you remember, we did a call for project for the hike and bike type projects, and credit to the 2 cities, City of Portland, City of Corpus Christi, your staffs, your consultants did a great job. We got 7 projects. We reported you got 7 projects last month, but in your packet, we show you the projects that came in and the dollar amounts that came in with them. We're really glad to see the spread of the geographic diversity of these projects. So on the map, you can see it's all over the region, and that's great. That's what we wanted. We wanted projects to be wherever the need is. And so you'll see on page 2 of the cover memo at the top, so it's a little bit small print, but we as staff, we went through the scoring process. We make it available to your staffs as well, and we're going to hear from them next week at the Technical Advisory Committee, and they're going to tell us, rate us how well we scored their projects. Again, we look to have this a bulletproof process that we want to make sure we scored it. If you recall, we had a guidance of, we told everyone ahead of time before you apply, here's how we're going to score. So write your applications to get the most points. And so when we went through the applications, we as staff negotiated all the points and tried to read into getting the most points by all the project sponsors. And we read the applications. We really debated quite a bit on some of these. But some of the categories we're going to have to readdress next call for projects for this kind of money. And again, this is about, it's at least $4.5 million. So it's good money for these kind of projects. But when we went through the score and we found a couple of categories that we couldn't score. There's only one project that did more than the minimum match of the federal money of 20% match for the 80%. So we couldn't give points to anyone but one project. So that really helped them in the scoring. And so in a competitive process, you want to get all the points that you really can. And then some of the other categories we looked at, we want to go back through our guidance, and we will when we do the call for projects again in about a year. But for this one, you can see on the chart, we gave it a point value, and we have a weighted point value. And then based on that, we ranked the projects 1 to 7. And so that added up to about a little over $6.3 million. Now, one of the guidance things we have and what we have to correct, and I've talked to Mayor Scuro about this and their staff, the guidance had a limitation of $2 million. So you see a project ranked number 5, that Sunset Lake project, that can only get $2 million. And so in our fleshing out our own guidance, we checked it out with Federal Highways and with TxDOT. And they looked at our guidance, they looked at what our call for projects was, and they verify the eligibility of all the projects, for one, and that's what we told people. We would make sure that there's no glitches when these projects get ready to contract. You don't want to hear from Federal Highway and TxDOT say, oh, you don't quite qualify. So we did that at the beginning of all these projects. But they also reminded us in our guidance, because they read it, that we set a floor of about $50,000, but then we did an upper limit of $2 million. And so they recommended, and we agree, we're gonna truncate that project at $2 million. Now, in talking with the city of Portland, that project is a couple of years to go. So, Mayor, when you bring up there's that $1.2 million is available, that's a possible funding source to give more money in a different category. See, our guidance was for category 9, not category 7. So we're going to work with Portland as we award these. You'll all award these hopefully next month. They'll do their contracts, they'll get the projects ready to go over a couple of years, and then they'll build them as soon as they can. Once they do that, then we'll see where the Sunset Lake project is. If it's still in need of money, then they'll come back and they can come through our process to ask for more money as part of the 67 or the 3.2. And so what we tell all the local governments and your staff, tell us what the project need is, get into the process, and then we'll start to find the money for it. And so those are the kind of things that we do, and this is just a small example. It's only $4.5 million that was the minimum for this award, but as you can see, the new number is about $6.29 million of requested projects. Now you wonder how we're going to fund $6.3 million with $4.5 million. Remember we told you there's some rollover money in the guidance in this item before. We said there's rollover money and there's new money that's coming down. We have at least $8 million. So the full amount that we're going to talk about to your technical committee next week is staff is probably going to recommend funding all 7 projects. And with the one change of the Portland project, Sunset Lake, bringing that down to $2 million. But we think we can afford all the projects. Again, it's not an action item today, but don't be surprised if you say, wow, how did you guys work the magic and fund 6.3 million with 4.5. Well, the answer is we got more money. So that's always been the estimate. We just didn't know the number when we did the call for projects. Now we know the number. But we can't just keep giving the money away because we don't have, in the one case that I know of, we don't have enough projects. So as this comes to you next month, we're going to have a recommendation from your TAC and from us, most likely to fund all of them. With that, again, the schedule is there. It goes to the technical committee, it goes out for the public review, final review, and then it'll come to you in May for final award of the $6.3 million probably.
And Rob, if I may, the city of Corpus Christi is very excited about this because this really complements the funds that we've already allocated for both Vision Zero and Safer Routes to School. So this is really good news for us.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's great, and compliments to the city and their budget. You put it in your own budget, same projects that were Safe Routes to School.
Right.
And so that's 100% local money. You're leveraging some of this federal money. And if there's more money, you all will be invited to go spend it. And so this is a good example of regionally a call for projects went out. Staff really dug in, found projects that you all want to do. They brought them forward, and hopefully next month we award it. And then we'll start going after the other categories of money, which, as you saw earlier, are in the hundreds of millions of dollars. But the process for this $4.5 million has really worked well. So.
Wonderful.
Good.
It's great.
Any other comments? Okay, thank you. Okay, item 6, the Transportation Policy Committee meeting will go into an executive session this afternoon under Texas Local Government Code, Chapter 551.074, which is evaluation and annual review of the MPO Director. Upon completion of the executive session, the Transportation Policy Committee may, in open session, take up such actions as appropriate on items that we have discussed in executive session. So with that announcement, I'm going to recess our Transportation Policy Committee meeting at 2:42 p.m. And we will adjourn in the room and we'll conduct annual review. Transportation Policy Committee meeting. Nico, for your minutes, we recessed at 2:42 PM, went in executive session at 2:43 PM, convened executive session at 2:58 PM, and we reconvened here at 3:01 PM. Okay. As a result of the executive session, is there any action that needs to be taken at this time?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the employment agreement amendment number 3 with a correction that the single merit performance payment on Mr. McDonald's salary will be paid at the time that other MPO employees are paid a bonus.
On this? Okay.
Second
Okay,
that?
second. Okay, I got a motion by Commissioner Zahn, seconded by Mayor Guajardo. Ms. McDonald, you didn't have much of a review. Everything was excellent. I think all this committee is very, very proud of the work that you have done for this MPO in this region. You have advanced this MPO quite well. Your staff is doing an excellent job, and you're leading them. So we're very proud to have you as our director for MPO, believe me.
It's great to hear, and the staff has really done well, and there's not many of us, but we do work together and push, pull, and get it all done so we can get you all the money you need to get some projects done. So it's good to hear, so thank you. I appreciate the
Appreciate
kind
you.
words.
Believe me. Any other committee members want to say anything to Ms. McDonald?
One clarification. The payment of the merit will be paid at the time that the MPO employees of this region receive their?
Yes.
Yeah. Of this, yeah, this MPO. Any other comments from committee members before we get to vote? Okay, no comments. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Okay, motion carried. Okay, we got that. Any committee member have any comment of interest?
Other than Rob, I'm new here, but you've done a great job, and, you know, you always presented at the RTA very well. It's very appreciated. Thank
My
you.
pleasure. We'll continue on.
Okay. No other comments. We'll move on to item 9, upcoming meetings. Our next scheduled meeting is scheduled for May the 5th. That is coincides with the hurricane conference that Thursday.
Cinco de Mayo.
Right.
I'll be celebrating.
Yeah. So if most of us are going to be at the hurricane conference, I assume, we're going to go ahead and move our next meeting to May the 12th. Does anybody have a problem with that? Okay. So Ms.
We'll
McDonald,
schedule it
go ahead and
accordingly.
change it to- Yeah, May the 12th will be our next Metropolitan Policy Committee meeting because of the hurricane conference. Okay?
Appreciate that.
Thank you. Thank you, Judge. Okay, with that, we'll adjourn the meeting 3:04 PM. Thank y'all.